Kandahar International Airport is located 10 miles southeast of Kandahar City in Afghanistan. It serves as the nation's second main international airport and is one of the largest military bases, capable of housing up to 250 aircraft of all type. The airport was built in the 1960s by the Afghan government. It was occupied by the Soviets during the 1980s Soviet war in Afghanistan. Following their withdrawal, the airport remained in control of Najibullah's government until he stepped down in 1992. Local warlord Gul Agha Sherzai was in charge of the airport until the Taliban took control of Kandahar in 1994. They were replaced by the Karzai administration in late 2001. Since 2007, the airport has been repaired and expanded. It is used for both military and civilian flights. Most of the airport is maintained by the Afghan National Security Forces and the International Security Assistance Force, which have separate bases there. The second wing of the Afghan Air Force has a separate base within the airport ground. The Afghan National Police provides security inside the passenger terminal. History Construction The airfield itself was built between 1954 and 1962 by American consultants, for a cost of $15 million. Bearing a great resemblance to typical U.S. architecture of the time, its original purpose was as a refueling stop for long-range piston-engined aircraft traveling between the Middle East and Southeast Asia. However, with the advent of jet aircraft, such stops were no longer necessary, and the airport saw little use. Since the airport was designed as a military base, it is likely that the United States intended to use it in case there was a showdown of war between the United States and former USSR. While the United States was busy building Kandahar International Airport, the USSR was busy in the north building Kabul International Airport. Soviet era During the Soviet occupation of Afghanistan, the airfield was used intensively by the Soviet Air Forces, both as a logistical facility for flying in troops and supplies and as a base for launching airstrikes against local Mujahideen groups. Fighting in the Kandahar area was particularly intense. However, Kandahar Airport was left relatively untouched and its main building was largely intact at the end of the war. The airstrip did suffer extensive damage that was subsequently repaired by the United Nations in the mid-1990s to support humanitarian flights. Taliban era The airport was mostly used at this time for military and humanitarian purposes, hosting regular flights of the United Nations and the International Committee of the Red Cross to and from Kabul, Jalalabad, Herat and Peshawar. Ariana Afghan Airlines also flew infrequent flights out of Kandahar to Pakistan and a few locations in Afghanistan. The airport came into the public eye during the tense drama that was played out when Pakistani terrorists belonging to Harkat al-Mujahideen, who hijacked and landed Indian Airlines Flight 814 on the airfield in December 1999, ordered the government of India to ensure the release and safe passage of 3 alleged Pakistani terrorists in return for letting the occupants of the passenger plane leave without harm. Although the exact nature of the deal that was struck between the government of India and the hijacking group is not known at this point, it did secure the release of the 3 prisoners who were being held in a prison in India. NATO presence During Operation Enduring Freedom in late 2001, Kandahar Airport was one of the first coalition bases established in Afghanistan. It was secured by the Light Armored Reconnaissance Element of the U.S. Marines 15th MEU in mid-December 2001, just a few weeks after the first coalition footprint was established by the United States Army at Camp Rhino in the desert to the southwest. The airport was captured by an air insertion coinciding with a rapid overland push from troops based at Camp Rhino. Major battles between the Taliban and local anti-Taliban forces had been fought at the airport just days earlier, and when coalition troops arrived there were abandoned weapons, including a BM-21 still loaded with rockets, scattered around the terminal. Australian and Canadian Special Forces were amongst the first coalition troops to relocate to Kandahar Airport, and by Christmas Day the US-led coalition had established a footprint of at least 1,000 troops. A perimeter was quickly secured around the terminal building and airstrip, and initially all troops worked and lived in and around the main terminal building itself. The first Spartan ablutions were established in the middle of a large rose garden out front, but shower facilities were not established for several weeks. The accommodation area began to enlarge down along the airfield to where the current military base is located, and by April the coalition presence had expanded to several thousand personnel. The 159th Combat Aviation Brigade became the main U.S. Army aviation unit at the airport, while the 451st Air Expeditionary Wing became the main USAF unit. As part of Operation Enduring Freedom, the Royal Air Force and Royal Navy also had based a squadron of Harrier GR-7A aircraft at Kandahar Airfield to provide close air support to coalition ground forces replacing USMC Avenue 8Bs. After June 2009 under Operation Herrick they were replaced by a squadron of Panavia Tornado GR-4 aircraft, carrying out close air support and recce missions. The Royal Air Force also has a detachment of C-130K and J model Hercules transport aircraft from 24, 30, 47 and 70 squadrons and its attached engineering detachment from 24/30 and 47/70 engineering squadrons is part of No. 904 Expeditionary Air Wing. The squadron's home was RAF Linium, Wiltshire until the end of 2011 when the squadron's home station was changed to RAF Brize Norton, Oxfordshire. 8 General Dynamics F-16 Fighting Falcon close air support fighters of the Royal Netherlands Air Force were deployed to Kandahar Airfield to support the expanded NATO operation in southern Afghanistan in late 2006. The Afghan government has been slow in rebuilding the facility. The vast majority of it has been reclaimed from years of neglect and damage by Soviet and Taliban soldiers. The interior gardens, pools, kitchen galley, restroom facility, and ticketing areas have been restored. With the transition of the U.S. passenger area terminal to the Afghans in 2005, the airport began to be used for civilian flights. It was used for the 2006 Hajj by Muslim pilgrims. With the closure of Camp Julian in Kabul in November 2005, most of the Canadian Forces personnel in Afghanistan were transferred to Kandahar province. Canadian Brigadier General David Fraser took command of the multinational brigade from its headquarters at Kandahar Airfield in March 2006. At the same time, Canada also fielded a battle group for 2 successive 6-month rotations, and deployed a new rotation for the Provincial Reconstruction Team at Camp Nathan Smith in Kandahar. The deployments in February 2006 brought Task Force Afghanistan in Kandahar to about 2,250 personnel. The mission of TFA was to improve the security situation in the southern areas, and play a key role in the transition from the US-led multinational coalition to NATO leadership. This change was made in southern Afghanistan in the summer of 2006. Since 2007, the airport is maintained by NATO under the International Security Assistance Force banner. Although a prominent base for the US and Canadian forces, many other armed forces are based there. British forces use Kandahar as their main staging post for the south and fly direct into the Helmand province. Fast jets and combat helicopters are also deployed as this is the main airport in the south of the country. NATO operates a major trauma hospital at the base, treating battle casualties, including Afghan civilians and enemy forces. In July 2007, the post of Commander, Kandahar Airfield was created as a NATO appointment which, until recently, has been held by an officer of the Royal Air Force of OF6 rank. Commander, Kandahar Airfield has been held by, July 2007, Air Commodore A.D. Stevenson, February 2008, Air Commodore R.W. Judson, September 2008, Acting Air Commodore A.D. Fryer, July 2009, Air Commodore M.A.B. Brecht, May 2010, Air Commodore G. Moulds, November 2010. Brigadier General Jeffrey Kendall, November 2011, Brigadier General Scott Dennis, November 2012, Brigadier General John Dolan, November 2013, Brigadier General Michael Fantini. During late September 2007 a number of French Dassault Mirage F-1 and F-2000s relocated here. From Dushanbe Airport, Tajikistan. The surge, reception, staging, onward movement, and integration. The 143rd Expeditionary Sustainment Command deployed to Kandahar Airfield in February, 2009 and was the first ESC deployed to Afghanistan, assuming responsibility as the Joint Sustainment Command Afghanistan. Prior to their arrival, sustainment brigades managed the logistical operations. However, with the impending surge in U.S. forces, the ESC was chosen for the reception, staging, onward movement, and integration mission, as well as coordinating sustainment distribution with joint, strategic and coalition stakeholders. 2009 surge and onwards. The 2009 surge in NATO operations in southern Afghanistan pushed the number of aircraft operations at the base from 1,700 to 5,000 flights a week. The numbers meant that Kandahar had become the busiest one-runway airport in the world. According to Usgroint, imagery analysis shows 2 deployments of unmanned aerial vehicles on the northeast section of the airfield. These 2 deployments were current as of 2012 and consisted of 4 MQ-1 Predators and 4 MQ-9 Reapers with the associated support equipment. As of January 2012, Kandahar Airfield has a population of roughly 26,000 personnel. The United States Army Corps of Engineers began expansion work with the addition of new facilities for the Afghan National Security Forces, particularly the Afghan Air Force. Since 2011, modified Beechcraft King Airs have been used by the U.S. Army for surveillance and reconnaissance within Afghanistan. Drawdown. Between 2008 and September 2014, the Belgian Air Component operated F-16s from here. Between May 2010 and September 2014, the USAF operated Beechcraft MC-12 West Liberty aircraft from here for intelligence, surveillance and reconnaissance missions. Airlines and destinations. Cargo. See also, List of airports in Afghanistan, Bagram Air Base, Camp Bastion. References. Citations. Bibliography. March, P. The Royal Air Force Yearbook 2008. Fairford, UK, The Royal Air Force Charitable Trust Enterprises. External links, Kandahar Airfield information, airport record for Kandahar International Airport at landings.com, current weather for OAKN at NOAANWS,